I Married My Sister's Husband, Episode 2. The final episode. The silence between Michael and me became its own language. It spoke when we did it. It hovered at the dinner table, crept between us in bed, lingered in Naomi's laughter like an unwelcome guest. I thought time would help, that if we just kept living, kept showing up, the pieces would realign, but they didn't. We were raising a child inside the ruins of someone else's love story. And the worst part was, Naomi could feel it. Children always know. Even when you lie with smiles and bedtime stories, they always know. One rainy Saturday afternoon, I found her sitting alone in her room, clutching one of Amanda's old bracelets. My heart dropped. "Where did you get that?" I asked. She looked up, her big brown eyes cloudy. It was in the drawer behind Daddy's ties. Of course, the drawer. The one I hadn't touched in months, too afraid to confront what else was inside. "Do you know who that is?" I asked, kneeling beside her. She nodded. "Auntie Amanda, she's very pretty." I froze. Naomi had never seen a photo of Amanda. At least, not one I'd shown her. "Who told you that?" "Daddy did." I felt something shift inside me, something heavy and cold and rising fast. That night, when Michael came home, I waited. He hung his coat, kissed Naomi goodnight, and walked into our room like it was any other night. But I was waiting, the bracelet in my hand. "You're showing her pictures of Amanda?" He didn't answer right away. He sat on the bed, ran a hand over his face. She asked, "And you thought that was your call to make?" "She's our aunt, Anita. She deserved to know she exists. She deserved to know the truth." "The truth?" My voice cracked. "Whose truth, Michael? Yours, mine, or the version we've been feeding her since the day she was born?" He looked at me then, really looked at me. "The one where her mother isn't a liar." The words landed like a slap. I turned away, my chest heaving. "I'm tired," I said. "I'm so tired of pretending this is a marriage." "So am I," he whispered. That was the beginning of the end. We started sleeping in separate rooms. Naomi, wise beyond her years, began asking fewer questions. She stopped calling us mommy and daddy and started saying our names. That hurt more than I expected. I poured myself into work, into motherhood. Michael retreated deeper into himself. Our home became a museum of what could have been. Then came the letter. It arrived in a white envelope with no return address. The handwriting on the front was unmistakable, Amanda. I stared at it for hours before opening it. My fingers trembled as I unfolded the paper. "Anita, I never thought I'd write this, but here I am. I'm not writing to forgive you. I'm not that selfless. I'm writing because I need you to know something. I knew about you and Michael before the divorce. I knew every lie, every betrayal, but I didn't walk away because of you. I walked away because I was pregnant, and I lost the baby. I never told Michael. I never told anyone. I blamed myself for a long time. Then I blamed you. But now, I don't blame anyone. Life has a cruel way of showing us who we really are. Take care of Naomi. And if you ever feel alone, know that it's not punishment, it's consequence. Amanda." I stared at the letter until the words blurred. My vision clouded, my heart collapsed. She had been pregnant? All these years and I never knew. All these years I thought I had taken her husband. I didn't realize I had taken her family. I clutched the letter to my chest and cried in a way I hadn't since the day of my wedding. Not from guilt, not from shame, but from grief for Amanda, for myself, and for the version of life we both lost. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the ceiling, listened to the silence, and made a decision. I had to leave. Not because I didn't love Michael anymore, but because I didn't know if I ever truly did. Not honestly, not without agenda. I sat Naomi down the next morning. "Mommy has to go away for a while," I told her. "Where?" she asked. "I don't know yet, but I need to figure some things out." "Are you and Daddy getting a divorce?" The question came so easily from her lips it nearly broke me. I nodded. "Yes, sweetheart." She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked at me with that strange calmness she always had and said, "Okay, just promise me you'll be happy." Out of the mouth of a child. I moved out 2 weeks later. Got a small apartment on the other side of town. Nothing fancy, just quiet, just mine. I split custody with Michael, who surprisingly didn't fight me on it. Maybe he was relieved. Maybe he was grieving too. We spoke only when we had to, but there was no anger, just acceptance. Amanda never replied when I wrote back. I didn't expect her to. I wrote her a letter every month even though she never answered. I wrote about Naomi's birthdays, her school plays, the first time she lost a tooth. I sent them to her old address, not knowing if she still lived there, not knowing if she burned every envelope. One day, a year later, a package arrived. Inside was a small velvet box and a note. For Naomi, from her Aunt Amanda. I still love her. I cried for hours. Not because I was forgiven, but because despite everything, Amanda still loved the only part of me that was pure Naomi. Michael and I finalized the divorce that summer. No lawyers, no fights, just signatures and sighs. Years passed. Naomi grew into a young woman. Kind, brilliant, sensitive. She asked more questions, and I gave more answers. When she turned 16, I told her everything. Not just the polished version, but the messy, unfiltered truth. About me, about Amanda, about Michael. She didn't hate me. She just cried. And then she hugged me. "Mommy," she said, "thank you for telling me the truth. I didn't deserve her forgiveness, but I held it close, like a rare and fragile gift." Michael eventually remarried, a teacher. She seemed good for him, gentle, grounded. They had a son together. Naomi adores her little brother. Amanda never married again. I learned through our cousin that she opened an art school in South Africa for underprivileged girls. She dedicated the gallery to the child she lost. She named it Hope. Sometimes, I wonder if Amanda ever thinks about me. If she ever sees Naomi smile in a photo and remembers that we were once little girls scribbling in the sand. Sisters, best friends. Sometimes I write her, even now, not to explain, just to say, I still love you, because I do. And maybe one day she'll write back. Maybe one day she'll say she loves me too. But if she doesn't, I'll understand. Some things are too broken to fix. But the truth sets you free, even if it leaves you alone. A few months after the divorce, I sat at my apartment window watching the rain slide down the glass. Naomi was at her father's house for the weekend, and I had the entire place to myself, quiet, empty, unforgiving. I reached for my journal, something I hadn't done in years. I began to write not a letter, not a story, just raw feelings. I destroyed a family to build one. Now I sit in the ruins of both. And the only thing still standing is my daughter, the only good thing that came from the worst part of me. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about Amanda's baby, the one she never told anyone about, the one she lost. I kept picturing a life where we had both been mothers, not rivals. I wondered if she would have ever told me had I not confessed, or if she had always intended for me to carry that guilt silently forever. Naomi came home the next evening, smelling of her father's cologne and clutching a new drawing, one that shattered me. It was a family portrait. In the center was Naomi, drawn with a bright yellow dress and curly hair. Beside her was Michael, smiling. On the other side, me. And behind all three of us, with angel wings, was Amanda. "She's still part of us," Naomi said softly, "even if no one talks about her." I broke down right there on the floor, hugging my daughter like my life depended on it. In a way, it did. Naomi had grown up between secrets and silences, yet somehow she still had a heart that could recognize love, loss, and forgiveness all in one drawing. A few weeks later, Michael and I found ourselves at the same parent-teacher conference. We sat awkwardly side by side, both nodding politely as Naomi's teacher gushed about her creativity and maturity. When the session ended, we walked to the parking lot in silence. "She's strong," he finally said. "She gets that from you." I looked at him startled. "You think?" Michael gave a small, tired smile. "You've always been stronger than you think, Anita. Even when I hated you, I never stopped respecting that." I didn't reply. There were no words left that hadn't already been said or felt. But in that quiet exchange, something shifted. Some unspoken truce was made. A month later, I received a video message from an unknown number. I hesitated, afraid to open it, but when I finally pressed play, Amanda's face appeared. It was a video she'd recorded at her art gallery's first anniversary. Her hair was longer now, streaked with silver. She looked serene, like someone who had found her way through the darkness. She wasn't speaking to me directly, just addressing a crowd, but her words cut through the screen and straight into my soul. Art, she said, is a form of forgiveness, not always of others, but of ourselves. We live, we break, we heal, and sometimes we create something beautiful from the pieces we thought were useless. I watched the video a dozen times that night. Each time, I felt something unravel inside me. And for the first time in years, I believed maybe, just maybe, there was still something inside me worth salvaging. Months turned into years. Naomi graduated high school with honors. I sat in the audience, tears in my eyes, clapping until my hands went numb. Amanda didn't come, but she sent flowers, a massive bouquet of white lilies, Naomi's favorite, with a simple card, "For my brilliant niece, Aunt Amanda." Naomi read the card and smiled, but she didn't say anything. Later that evening, she found me on the balcony. "Do you think she'll ever forgive you?" she asked. I took a long breath. "I don't know, and maybe that's not what matters anymore." Naomi nodded slowly. "But do you forgive yourself?" I looked out at the city lights and whispered, "Not yet, but I'm trying." 10 years have passed since I married my sister's ex-husband. 7 years since I left him. 5 since Amanda and I last spoke. But something strange happened on my 40th birthday. A small brown package arrived, unmarked. Inside was a single photograph of Amanda and me as children, sitting on a swing set in our backyard, laughing. On the back, in Amanda's handwriting, "We were happy once, I remember." No signature, no explanation, just that. I held that photo like it was a lifeline. That night, I sat at my desk and wrote Amanda one final letter. I remember too. And if you ever want to find that again, even if only as 2 women, not sisters, I'll be here. Always. Anita. I never got a reply. But sometimes, forgiveness isn't about hearing the words. Sometimes it's about knowing that even broken things can be beautiful again, just in a different shape. And maybe that's what Amanda meant in that speech. Maybe art, like life, doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be honest. So here's my honesty. I loved the wrong way. I made selfish choices. But I also raised a daughter who became the best of both her parents. And I learned that no matter how far we fall, there is always a way back to ourselves. Even if no one walk,